I was at my nephew's baptism when my husband whispered he'd left something in the car. He was gone for over an hour. I went to look. Found his phone buzzing in the center console. A message read, "The priest was cute but not as hot as you." I scrolled. More messages. A hidden second life. When he returned, I just asked, "Did you confess while you were out there?" He said, "What?" I pulled out the phone, because I think God already heard it. I never expected my life to start falling apart during a baptism. It was a humid Sunday morning in Savannah, Georgia. My sister's church had no air conditioning, just ceiling fans that pushed around warm air and the smell of wood polish. I was sitting in the third pew from the front, holding a soft blanket my nephew had spit up on earlier. Trying not to cry. Trying not to let my thoughts wander too far. This was supposed to be a peaceful day. A family day. My sister's first child, Micah, was getting baptized. And me, just the tired, childless aunt, was trying to keep my smile glued on. I'd put on my best dress. I'd curled my hair. Greg even ironed his shirt without me asking. I thought that was a good sign. That maybe we were starting fresh. We'd had a rough couple of years. I lost 2 pregnancies. Back to back. The second one broke something in me. And in him. Or maybe it just broke the illusion that anything was real. Still, I stayed. We both did. We played house. Told people we were okay. And I believed, at least half the time, that we were. Until that moment. It was 11:17 a.m. The priest was talking about water as a symbol of rebirth, and I felt Greg shift next to me. He leaned over and whispered, "I left the gift in the car. I'll be right back." I nodded. Didn't think twice. I even smiled. "Thanks, babe." He kissed my cheek like he still loved me. And he left. Minutes passed. Then more. The baptism happened. My sister beamed. Her husband cried a little. People clapped. I smiled when the camera was on me. Pretended I didn't feel like something was pressing down on my chest. By the time it was 12:22 p.m., people were starting to gather in the church hall for lunch. Greg still hadn't come back. I texted him, "Everything okay?" Nothing. I walked out the front doors, the sun hitting me like a wave. The parking lot was quiet. I scanned for Greg's car. It was still there, parked under a tree. Windows cracked slightly. I walked to it. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe he was on a call. Maybe he just spaced out. But when I opened the door, his phone was sitting in the center console. Face up. Buzzing. I didn't even hesitate. "Chris, sweat droplets. The priest was cute but not as hot as you." It hit me like a brick. I picked it up. The lock screen didn't ask for a code. I swiped. And then I saw all of it. Text back and forth. Photos. Videos. Screenshots of hotel confirmations. Inside jokes. Emoji reactions. Sunday service was their nickname for their weekly meetups. I kept scrolling. Every message was like a slap. They'd been seeing each other for at least 6 months. Longer, probably. Greg wasn't even trying that hard to hide it. He'd made a whole other life, and I was just the dull, sterile wife he came home to. The one who failed at giving him a child. The one who didn't even notice when he started dressing better on Thursdays. I sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking. I wanted to scream, cry, throw the phone, but instead I waited. I waited until I saw him walking back across the parking lot with that stupid-ass gift bag in his hand. He didn't even look guilty, just annoyed, like traffic had been bad. He walked up smiling. "Sorry, I cut him off. Did you confess while you were out there?" He blinked, confused. "What?" I pulled out his phone and held it up like a cross, because I think God already heard it. His face drained of color. And, for the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. But that was just the beginning. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just handed him his phone and walked past him, back into the church hall like nothing had happened. That was the part that scared him, I think. I didn't blow up. I didn't cause a scene. I just disappeared into the crowd with the same fake smile I'd been wearing all day. Inside, people were laughing and eating fried chicken off paper plates. My sister waved me over, but I said I needed to use the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and sat on the toilet lid, staring at the beige tiles until my hands stopped shaking. When I came out, Greg was gone again. Coward. I didn't go looking this time. That night, he came home like nothing was wrong. Walked in the door and dropped his keys in the bowl by the entry like he always did. I was in the kitchen, drinking a glass of wine. He stood in the doorway, looking like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He said we should talk. I didn't even look at him. You think? He stepped inside, real slow, like I might throw something. I didn't. I just poured myself another glass and waited. I didn't mean for it to happen, he started. I laughed. Actually laughed. That line still works for people? He rubbed his face. You've been distant since the miscarriage. I didn't know how to help you. I felt like I was losing you. I looked him dead in the eye. So you found someone to keep you warm while I fell apart. He didn't say anything, just stood there like he expected me to forgive him because he'd told the truth. I said, how long? He hesitated. How long? He finally answered. 9 months. 9 months. I did the math. He started sleeping with Chris right after the second miscarriage. While I was bleeding in the hospital bed. While I was blaming myself, wondering if I was broken. He was already slipping out the back door. And I knew right then I wasn't going to divorce him quietly. I wasn't going to be another sad woman packing boxes and crying on the way to her sister's house. I was going to make him pay. The next morning, I drove to the city records office. We weren't fully joined on everything. Greg liked to handle the paperwork, which I now realized was his way of keeping control. But I still had access to the house, the joint account, and one little savings account with my name on it that we'd agreed to use if we ever wanted to adopt. He'd forgotten about that one. I pulled every bank statement I could find, dug up old emails, found hotel reservations, meal receipts, even gas station charges that matched his Thursday night client dinners. I printed it all, put it in a nice folder. I wasn't going to confront him again. Not yet. Instead, I went to Chris. I waited until a Thursday night. I followed Greg when he left for a work meeting in his usual Thursday shirt and that stupid cologne I'd bought him last Christmas. He parked behind a restaurant downtown. I watched him meet Chris at the back door. They hugged, kissed. I took pictures. I waited until they went inside. Then I walked up to the door and asked for the manager. Hi, I said, calm as anything. I'm Greg's wife. And I thought you should know that one of your bartenders is sleeping with a married man and using your business as their motel. The manager, his name was Darius, looked at me like I'd slapped him. What? He said. I handed him the folder. The one with the photos. The texts. The hotel confirmations. Even a copy of our marriage certificate, just to be thorough. That's your bartender, I said, tapping the page. And that's my husband. He flipped through the papers, eyebrows lifting higher with every page. He didn't ask any more questions. Didn't need to. I'd made it easy for him. Jesus Christ, he muttered. I had no idea. I said, I'm not asking you to fire him. That's your decision. I just thought you should know that if they're doing anything illegal in your business, like drinking on the job, using rooms without permission, or, screwing in the office, you might want to handle it before the wrong person finds out. Darius nodded slowly. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. I walked away feeling lighter. Not better. Not healed. But in control. And that was a start. Greg had no idea what was coming. That weekend, I hosted a barbecue. Yeah, a full backyard barbecue. Family, friends, his coworkers. I invited everyone, even his mother. I made potato salad, marinated ribs, baked a damn peach cobbler from scratch. Greg was suspicious, of course. You're Being weird, he said the morning of. What's all this for? I smiled. Just thought we needed something to lift the mood. He blinked, then kissed my forehead. Glad you're feeling better. What a joke. People arrived. Music played. Drinks flowed. And when the sun started to go down, I stood in front of the group and said I wanted to make a toast. I'd never spoken in front of a crowd like that before. My hands were sweating, but I kept them steady. I just want to thank everyone for being here, I said, lifting my wine glass. It means so much, especially after everything Greg and I have been through. People smiled, nodded, and I want to raise a glass to honesty, I continued. To truth. Because truth has a funny way of showing up when you least expect it. Like when your husband disappears during your nephew's baptism and you find out he's been cheating on you with a bartender named Chris. You could have heard a pin drop. Greg stood frozen beside me, jaw slack, wine glass in hand. Cheers, I said, and took a sip. People gasped. Some whispered. His mother looked like she might faint. His coworkers stared at him like he was a pile of garbage in a suit. I walked off the deck and left Greg standing there, his life unraveling in front of half the people he worked with. I didn't even look back. Greg followed me inside that night like a ghost. The party fizzled out behind him. People mumbled excuses and shuffled out the back gate while he stood in the middle of our kitchen, pale, breathing hard, like he'd run a marathon. You did this to embarrass me? He asked. His voice cracked. I was leaning against the counter, calm. No, I said. I did this so people would stop asking me why I looked so tired all the time. I did this so you'd know I'm not the same woman who used to cry in the bathroom while you were out screwing someone in a bar storage room. He blinked. That never happened. I tossed a grainy photo onto the counter. Greg. Shirt halfway off. Chris sitting on a crate. A bottle of tequila on the shelf. Try again. He looked like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. He just sat down at the table, shoulders sagging. What now? He asked. I reached for the envelope I'd taped to the bottom of the junk drawer weeks ago. Threw it on the table. This is what now? Inside was a copy of divorce papers already signed by me. Copies of the photos. A letter I'd drafted to his boss, because it turned out Greg had been stealing hours, too, using work trips to see Chris. I'd been digging for weeks. I already spoke to a lawyer, I said. Half the house is mine. The savings account is mine. The joint credit cards are frozen. His head was in his hands now. You ruined everything, he said. I stepped closer. Looked him straight in the eye. No. You did that. I just turned on the lights. It didn't stop there. A week later, his company fired him. Apparently, they didn't like fraud or moral scandal attached to their name. Chris? Quit the bar. Word got around quick in Savannah. Last I heard, he was bartending out of a food truck somewhere near Tybee Island. Greg moved in with his brother across town. Tried to win me back for about a month. Letters. Flowers. Even showed up at my work once. I had security walk him out. It took time. A lot of it. But eventually I smiled again. For real this time. I got my own place. Started volunteering at a children's center. One of the little girls there started calling me Mama Hope because I always brought juice boxes and Band-Aids. It stuck. Funny thing is, I don't even want revenge anymore. Because watching Greg unravel, piece by piece, while I got stronger, that was the revenge. And it was better than I ever imagined.